We want marriages to thrive, and we want bedrooms to be passionate and free and fun. And if you feel like crap, it's not going to happen. And so, I just love seeing that ripple effect and how it impacts the whole health of the family.
Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a sex and intimacy coach for married couples. My mission is to help you build and maintain a sexually vibrant and emotionally intimate marriage. Join me each week as we explore principles and practical tools based on Christian values to create the passionate, joyful, and thriving marriage you're designed to have. If you've ever wondered about low libido in midlife and hormones and how they affect our sexual health and interest, well, this episode and the next one or two episodes following are going to be definitely ones you want to listen to. I'm going to do a little mini-series on sexual health and hormones. Now, a lot of this comes from my own personal interest. I myself am in midlife. I'm not immune to the effects of aging. And like many of the friends around me and those that I work with, I've seen how my body changes has affected sexual drive and sexual interest as well. Now, I've had friends that have gone on testosterone replacement therapy and others that have made lifestyle changes and have seen big positive effects to their sex life. And there's others too that still struggle with their sex lives, even though they've maybe have tried many things and are still looking for answers. So if this is you, I hope this episode and the next few episodes are coming out here on Get Your Marriage On are very helpful for you. They give you a practical resource to help you find that joy, because we don't want to face the second half of our life with a boring or with a loss of sexual interest or sex drive. We want that part of us that brings so much joy, so much connection to be alive and thriving well into our older ages. So this episode is great for people in midlife looking for ideas from a health perspective on how to improve their sex drive. So I met Dr. Jerry Duggar at an event in 2022. I was very impressed with his intellect. Also, he's charming, he's funny, and he's very passionate about sexual health. And I think he's very knowledgeable, and you're going to like what we get to talk about today. Now, before we begin, I do want to tell you some great things we have coming up. First is in our program, it's called the Get Your Marriage On Next Level program. We do these men's and women's small groups. These are limited to 6 to 10 men or women in our men's and women's groups. And they're led by myself and my team. We do a deep dive on sexual intimacy in your relationship. These are 14 weeks long, and our next cohort starts in the middle of May. And you'll find those details on our website. You don't want to miss that. Another is we have a few openings left for our cruise coming up in October. You don't want to miss that either. We're calling it the Intimacy Cruise with C spelled S-E-A. Get it? We're having a great time with a bunch of couples. We're going on vacation together and doing a deep dive on enjoying the joys and fun and the eros energy in our marriages that we talk about so often on this podcast on this wonderful cruise. So the cruise sails in October. You'll find all those details at getyourmarriageon.com. Click events, scroll to the bottom. You'll see it there. All right, let's get started on today's conversation about sexual health. Dr. Jerry Duggar, I'm so excited for this conversation that we're going to be having today. You're a chiropractor is your background, but you've explored holistic health for so much of your career. We're going to talk about how this applies to sexual health today. This is going to be a great conversation.
I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
And we're going to talk about sex. And I'm going to get personal real quick. How did your sex life start out?
Well, I thought I was really well prepared, as a little virgin boy. I thought I knew what I was doing. But I'll be honest, we really actually had a really great honeymoon, and everything was so natural and felt so comfortable. And I was like, man, we're just cruising through this. This is not a problem at all. But our very funny thing happened the week after we got home from our honeymoon. And so I'm sleeping. We're in the, after sex, okay? And then we go to bed, and I get woken up in the middle of the night with my wife punching me in the groin.
Oh.
Okay, so I got to tell you this story here. So evidently, she's so not used to sleeping with another human being next to her, right?
Let alone
But
a
in
man.
her,
Right.
let alone a man, she's having a dream, and in this dream, her like high school rival girl, who was
Uh-huh.
always mean to her and just whatever, was bullying her, and so in her dream, she punched she punched the girl, but
Uh-huh.
in real life, she just went wham and dropped her, hit me right in the groin.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm woken from a dead sleep, and I just roll out of bed. I'm moaning on the floor. So she comes to, figures out that she just punched her husband.
Uh-huh.
And I was terrified for the next few nights. I was like, I'm not sure if this is safe. And maybe this whole marriage, sleeping in the same bed, is not going to be quite so good. But luckily, that was a one time only. And
Oh,
in
good.
35 other years of marriage, it's never happened again. But yeah, that was a funny experience that happened.
That's so good.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah.
So tell me more about your training. Where is your
Yeah.
background from? What's your theoretical approach towards sexual health?
So, I had a sports injury when I was a kid, and happened to be referred to a chiropractor,
Hmm.
and just had phenomenal results. I really enjoyed kind of how chiropractic worked, and I loved how I felt after I was getting adjusted. So I just kind of really loved this profession. Then I went to Asia on a church mission and got exposed to acupuncture, got exposed to kind of meridians and energy flow through the body. And then I also got exposed to Chinese and Chinese medicine or Korean medicine, Oriental herbs. And there was a kind of a joke: if you got sick in Korea, you could either get Western medicine or
Eastern
Eastern
medicine.
medicine,
Uh-huh.
and always the Eastern medicine worked faster and better. So quickly, we would just kind of go and go right past the Sudafed, then
Uh-huh.
and go for some guy mortar and pestle in the back making you this crazy tea if you didn't even know what the heck it was. You
Uh-huh.
just knew you were going to get knocked out like crazy, and then by the time you kind of came up, you'd be better. So I had these great experiences with acupuncture and Eastern medicine. When I came back from my church mission, I got injured again, and I went to another a chiropractor at that point. And this is after I had met my wife, and so we just kind of dove into chiropractic care again, and once again had a phenomenal healing response. And now I've kind of got this background, like, this is kind of fun. Maybe I should think about this.
Uh-huh.
One day, I'm laying on the chiropractor's table, and he says, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I said, "I have no idea."
Uh-huh.
And he just said 6 magic words. He said, "You should become a chiropractor."
Uh-huh.
And by the time I left his office, literally the proverbial heavens opened, and like it was a download, like, this is what you should do.
Uh-huh.
So long story short, I'm off to chiropractic school after a few months of schooling and what have you. But in chiropractic school, I had another profound experience happen, and that was my father passed away.
Mm.
So I was in Georgia, and my father passed away at the age of 69, and he had had terrible health all of the life that I knew of his.
Uh-huh.
And as I flew home, my wife was 8.5 months pregnant, so she couldn't come to the funeral. I
Uh-huh.
flew by myself, and as I was flying back, sitting on the airplane, I was just thinking about my father's life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about his lifestyle, his diet, his exercise. I thought about all of these things and how they contributed to every chronic disease that he had: diabetes, congestive heart failure, emphysema. Like, it's just literally any such degenerative disease you can think of, he was dealing with, and it took his life at 69. And then I had a mother who lived a completely different lifestyle. She would make two dinners, one that was good for you and one that my dad would eat. Like, I mean, she was just
Uh-huh.
very different. She would walk and exercise and take her supplements and da da da. Okay. And I just could see in perfect contrast the outcomes of those two lives.
Within the same household. Yeah.
Was in the same household, and I
Uh-huh.
realized I was growing up in a social science experiment, like, just and it was profound. And as I came back, I said, I love chiropractic. I love doing adjustments and helping people in pain. And that's an important part of life. But I really want to be the type of doctor who could have helped my father. He
Right.
was taking 15 or 16 medications because every time he'd go to the doctor to have a new complaint, they'd give him another drug. And so it was just, and he'd wash them all down with his Coke, right? So
Mhm.
that was a pivot point for me to get into health at a much deeper level with nutrition and emotional work, energetic work. So functional medicine kind of is a new term that came about as I was studying this. So now I got into functional endocrinology and functional mental health and somatic breath work training and, all of these things because they're all components of building a healthy lifestyle. And so I've been on that path for the last 27 years.
That's great. I have a very active Facebook group, and often, almost on a daily basis, there's some comment or something. So here's a recent scenario. A wife is on there. She's like, my husband is struggling with erectile dysfunction. He's
Hmm.
no longer interested in sex with me. I'm trying everything I can. Please help. Like, I want to have a sexual
Hmm.
relationship with my husband.
Yeah.
And a lot of the comments are like, this is Facebook. So sometimes the
Right.
comments are very thoughtful, and other times I don't know how much thought's put in. If it's more just a quickly type something and move on to the next.
Right.
But
Right.
I do see a repeating pattern of people saying things like, "Oh, he must be looking at porn, and that's why he's not
Right.
having sex with you,"
Yeah.
without any context. That's kind of like
Right.
an automatic. That might be the case, but there's no evidence for that from
Hmm.
what we know.
Hmm.
But another automatic response is, "Oh, he has low testosterone. He needs to get his
Hmm.
testosterone checked."
Yeah.
And I sometimes bristle at that because it's turned into such an automatic thing. Like, if a
Yeah.
man has low sex drive, he has low testosterone. So he needs to go to a
Yeah.
urologist or a specialty
Yeah.
place, these T clinics, and get on testosterone. And I've talked to
You-
men who have gotten on testosterone and their life has changed. Like, this has
yeah.
really helped me. This has been a great thing for me. And there's
Yeah.
others that are like, it hasn't done much for me. I don't know.
Right.
But now feel like they need to take it for life. And there's other things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I want your opinion as a holistic doctor talking about
Yeah.
sexual health here in that context. What would you say?
So I want to back up and without taking too much time here, there's a parable
Uh-huh.
from India
Uh-huh.
that has shaped a lot of the way I think about life and health. You may have heard it. It's called The Six Blind Men and the Elephant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have,
Yeah.
have you heard this? Okay.
Yes.
So
But
I won't go through the whole thing,
tell
but
us,
it
tell
starts.
us anyway.
It was six men from Indostan to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant, and happening to fall against his broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, God bless me, but the elephant is very like a wall. The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, Ho, what have we here? So very round and smooth and sharp, to me it's mighty clear. This wonder of an elephant is very like a spear. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but each of
Uh-huh.
these six men come across a different piece of the elephant.
Right.
One grabs the tail and thinks the elephant is like a rope. The other one grabs the trunk and says the elephant's like a snake. And the other grabs the leg and says the elephant is like a tree. Okay, so the point is everyone is having their own experience, and their own experience is their reality.
Yeah.
And the closing of this poem says, and so these men of Indostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right and all were in the wrong. And so I say that as a precursor to this whole idea. You mentioned, okay, somebody jumps in and says, oh, he must be looking at porn. Why?
Uh-huh.
I guarantee they've been affected by pornography.
Right.
They've either seen it and it's had an impact to them, or their spouse has. Okay, and maybe somebody went and got on testosterone and it changed their whole life. So that's check his testosterone levels, right? But what I want to do is just back way the heck up and say, you got to check it all, brother. It's all possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? We want to see as much of this elephant as we can.
Yeah.
It is impossible for a person to have low testosterone and have everything else right.
Oh,
Does that make
really?
sense?
You can't have low testosterone only, and everything
No.
must be fine.
Testosterone is in this big, massive production chain of all sorts of hormones. Starts with cholesterol and goes to pregnenolone and then turns to cortisol and progesterone. It's this big network. Everything's moving through.
Uh-huh.
Water's moving through these little pathways. Okay? Testosterone just happens to sit right here. In fact, testosterone then converts to estrogen.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So every woman who's got estradiol in their body, that came from testosterone. So things are moving through, and none of these levels are just like static. They're all related to one another. So you can't just have everything else working perfect in your body and your testosterone low. It just doesn't work that way. Our body is an integrated network of communication. Our hormones, our digestive system, our detoxification pathways, our brain, our neurochemistry, like all of these things are playing into our situation. So I bristle, not that somebody said get your hormones checked. It's that they also didn't say get your gut checked, get your sleep checked, get your cholesterol checked. Like, in other words, get it all checked.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, certainly problems might be there on the physiological side. Okay, now you as a relationship and sex coach, your default position is what's going on in the dynamic between the husband and wife. So your frame is like, I'm grabbing the tusk, so this must be a relationship problem. Okay,
Yeah.
and somebody else is just saying, oh, well, I'm grabbing the leg, and this must be a hormone problem.
Right.
The smart approach is to step way back and just say, how much of this elephant can I kind of get in my mind? And work on all of it. Like, you don't have to work on all of it at the same time, but you have to start somewhere and then keep moving.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Does that
So
make
do you have a
sense?
framework or something that you work
Yeah.
from for that?
That is the downside of what I just said is you got to do everything, is that you don't know where to start. You don't even have a conceptual idea of how to handle this. So yes, models are very helpful. So I've kind of created what I call the Duggar Wellness Health Matrix, and there's 3 levels to this, and each one of these levels has 7 components. So I'm going to keep this really simple, but the base level, we have root causes.
Okay.
And really, there's only 7 root causes of all illness and disease. So let me hit them really quickly. We've got genetics and something called epigenetics, okay?
Yep.
But remember, genes don't usually pull the trigger. The gene loads the gun, and something else pulls the trigger, okay?
Gotcha.
So we have genetics. We have our immune system becoming dysregulated. Now, that could be autoimmunity. It could be infection. Could something to do with the immune system not being able to completely regulate itself. Then we have toxin exposure. So we can be poisoned either really acutely, arsenic or something like that, or we can be poisoned really, really slowly, like lead paint, or lead in our water. Like, so we can have toxin exposure that drives illness. We can also have nutrient imbalance, and that could be nutrient deficiency. It could also be nutrient excess. It could also be what we call macronutrient imbalance, an imbalance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So all of these things, nutrients, can drive illness. Then we have, of course, injury and trauma. People get injured and die for that. We have psychosocial stress. That's work demands and stress coming from there, relationship challenges. Absolutely, those can be drivers of illness. And then, this last one's a little bit hard to explain, but it's a communication breakdown. There are systems in the body that their job is to talk to each other.
Gotcha.
The brain talking to the hormones, and the immune system feedback. These feedback loops can get disrupted. So we're calling that communication breakdown. So those are our 7 root causes.
Gotcha.
And those are, I say, that's why things go wrong. Where things go wrong are systems. And so we talk about 7 main systems: the brain, so neurological system, the endocrine system, hormones, immune system, what I call a detoxification system, our structural system, and then our cardiometabolic system. So you can tell we could spend an hour on every one of these things. There's a lot of information here, but just know that those causes affect systems, and every one of these systems is connected.
Makes sense.
So there's an interplay. And when you disrupt one piece of, let's say we disrupt the gut microbiome, we get food poisoning and our gut gets disrupted. Maybe we take an antibiotic, and we think that's only affecting the gut. Well, no, it's actually affecting the entire immune system, which then can be having an effect on your detoxification pathway. So all of these things are playing off of each other all the time. So that's my role kind of as a physician, is to assess those systems and figure out what's going on. Is the gut functioning well? What's going on with the hormones? Okay, back to this idea. What's testosterone looking like? What's estrogen looking like? And other things like thyroid, hugely important. Adrenal, cortisol, this is another critical hormone. Insulin, another critical hormone. So we have to kind of look at all of those hormones together and all of the other systems together. Once we do that, then my work starts, and I'm going to try to help nudge those things in the right direction. And that may be with a hormone replacement. But in my philosophy, I would never want to replace something that I could just rejuvenate.
Right. Then it's just like a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
You're not addressing
your idea
the
of
underlying system or how it's interconnected.
Exactly. We're not addressing the system, and we're not addressing the root cause. Okay. So now we might have solved the symptom. Great. I want to have sex with my wife again. But we really haven't fixed the pathway that caused that low T in the first place.
Right.
So we haven't necessarily changed their health.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I say my job as the physician is to work on the 7 systems. And then my job as the coach, because honestly, I hated just telling people what to do and not giving them any tools on how to implement it. So I decided I'm going to go get a health coaching certification. And now I've got 3 or 4 because I want to get in and help you actually change your life. So that's where the coaching piece comes in, and we start addressing what I call the 7 habits of health. The book we wrote, it's called The Simple 7 Solutions. So eat well, move well, breathe well, sleep well, love well, play well, and think well. Okay? So
that's good.
This is what I help my clients do on a daily basis. This is how we all affect our systems.
Great.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it would be great. So let's go back to Larry, who's got low T, doesn't want to have sex
but
with
we
his
don't know.
wife.
Yeah, let's assume he does have low T. Yeah.
Let's assume he's got low T.
Yep.
Well, we probably ought to put it back up just a little bit, because sometimes people are only getting a total testosterone level.
Gotcha. It's more about, explain.
So you've got total testosterone, and then you've got what's called free testosterone. Because most of the hormones floating in around our body are bound up by proteins called albumin and sex hormone binding globulin. So these bind most of the hormones. So there's only a small fraction of the hormones we make that are actually free or bioavailable to be, to dock on a cell and do what the hormone does.
Is that by design? Is that normal? Like we want that?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly how the body wants to operate, because then it has a fine tuner knob. It's got like a production knob, but then it's got another place where it can say, I want a little bit more or a little bit less. And it can do that by increasing how much is bound and how much is free. So this is brilliant design. Somebody was really smart about designing this body. But many people are just looking at total testosterone and saying, oh, it's high or low. And they're not looking at free testosterone.
Is it because it's harder to measure free testosterone?
No. It's not harder at all. It's just beyond me sometimes. The same could be said for thyroid. I see this all of the time. People get a TSH mark, they get their blood test that says TSH, and there's no further assessment. But TSH is only one small piece of the overall puzzle of thyroid health. So we do need to run much more comprehensive panels and look deeper. But I see a lot of men who have low testosterone on labs, and they have elevated estrogen.
Interesting.
And so now what we have to understand is that there's a conversion from testosterone into estrogen. Our body, that's normal. That's just what it's supposed to do. But there's an enzyme called aromatase that does that action. So if somebody comes in and they've got low testosterone and they've got high estrogen, we know that too much of the testosterone is being converted.
The aromatase
So
is active.
aromatase is overactive.
Yeah.
What's driving aromatase?
Hmm.
Obesity, insulin resistance,
Resistance.
blood sugar issues, sleep problems, alcohol. Like, in other words, lifestyle
Hmm.
is driving this problem. So what happens if I don't address the lifestyle in this gentleman
Well,
and
you
I just
just
give him more testosterone?
more of it can be converted to estrogen. Uh,
Exactly. We haven't fixed the actual physiology. We've just poured more testosterone in, and they might feel a bump for a little while. They might feel better, but once again, eventually, the problem kind of gets worse.
mhm.
So it's never that testosterone replacement is a terrible idea. It's just has to be part of a much bigger discussion. And the
Mhm.
same could be said for women with estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. All of these things have to be really evaluated and understood holistically and looked at in in the context of the person's life. There's really no reason. I mean, let's say somebody's 35 years old, a man's 35 years old, like, he should still be able to make some testosterone. Let's figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different if he's 55 or 60. And
Hmm.
it's like, okay, even with a great lifestyle, I'm a little lower than I want to be. Well, that's a different discussion. Okay. So I just think the idea is look bigger, like step out and ask the question, why is it low if it is? Or what happens if it's not low at all? What happens if his testosterone is still okay, but his cortisol is sky high because he's way too stressed and he's got tons going on at work, and maybe the relationship itself is stressful and there's anxiety. And now, yeah, he could get blood flow to his penis, but his nervous system is actually shutting it down.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got elevated cortisol, and that is putting his body into sympathetic overdrive, right? So he's got
Yep.
sympathetic nervous system that's firing too much. He can't drop into a sexual state,
Mm-mm.
and and then, gosh, let's say 3 times in a row he gets ED. Now what happens? Now that's
Even
cranked
more.
up
It's
by
yeah.
300%, right? So
Right.
so you've got to understand the whole picture of this for this guy. And we're saying the guy, but the same thing happens with our
With women
wives,
too.
right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
especially during perimenopause and menopause, massive shifts happening. And so, yeah, I was at a conference just last night talking about the impact of the gut microbiome on not only the immune system but on the hormones.
Let's talk about
So
that. Tell me more.
once again, we have to understand the easiest one to talk about is the fact that as you're from an estrogen point of view, I'm going to start there. As a woman produces estrogen, it kind of goes and it docks on its receptor and it does its magic thing, and then the body needs to clear it. So it has to go back through the liver, through the gallbladder, and be conjugated and methylated, and they do all this fun chemistry, and then it gets dumped into the gut. Well, the wrong type of microbes in the gut can produce something called beta glucuronidase, which reconverts that estrogen back into an active form. Then it goes back systemically. And now we've got the new stuff that's been made and the old stuff that didn't clear. And we start getting situations where there's too much estrogen or estrogen dominance.
Hmm.
So now we're talking, okay, we've got to figure out what's going on with the gut. And what happens if there's inflammation in the gut because of a food sensitivity or an overgrowth of bacteria?
Hmm.
That also causes increased cortisol. Increased cortisol is a stress hormone. It causes inflammation. So you see how these webs just start intertangling, and you're like, okay, we've got to look at a lot more than just sticking a shot of testosterone in someone's butt.
Yeah. So how do you test for gut microbiome? And
Yeah. So in
yeah.
my office, if we're looking at small intestine issues, we typically do a breath test. We drink a sugar solution that basically feeds those bugs. And if they're there, if they're overgrown, those bugs will give off a gas that can be measured in the breath.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Fascinating. Yeah.
It's a
And that's
breathalyzer test of
it's
some sort.
breathalyzer for your bugs in your
Uh-huh.
small intestine.
Uh-huh.
The condition is known as SIBO or SIBO.
Uh-huh.
And that's one thing that can kind of be going on in there. Usually when we're looking at microbiome in the colon, we do stool testing.
Gotcha.
And it used to be stool testing was some unfortunate soul in a laboratory looking under a microscope slides trying to see if they see any bugs, okay, or parasites. Now we've got DNA sequencing of the entire microbiome. You can see shotgun of like everything that's in there. And we're starting to understand which species are keystone species, which ones just are critical to be there, which ones are we call commensals, so they're normal and natural and they're helpful, and then which ones may be opportunistic or pathologic. So in the wrong situation, they can bloom, they can grow and become problematic.
It sounds like the social scene in middle school. You have the bully, right?
Exactly.
The good kids.
Yeah. And really in the world of nutrition and probiotics and things, the idea is that the more diverse the microbiome is, the healthier the body is.
Gotcha.
Because that diversity means that there's not enough room for the pathogens and the opportunists to
Dominate.
to overgrow, to dominate. And so keeping lots of friendly bugs coming in through your diet, through fermented foods, or for probiotics, that can be really helpful. Now, probiotics is a lengthy discussion because there are better ones than others, but let's just leave it at trying to encourage a healthy gut microbiome lowers inflammation, regulates the immune system, and actually really helps to stabilize hormones. And for your female listeners, there's profound implication between the gut microbiome and the vaginal microbiome, and profound implication on the gut microbiome and urinary tract infections. So not only if somebody's dealing with chronic UTIs, not only do they need to be considering estrogen and other things that might be at play, we also have to be addressing not only the vaginal microbiome but the gut microbiome, because there's crosstalk, and these bugs are basically signaling and communicating and teaching our immune system how to stay regulated. So that's some pretty fascinating stuff. This gut microbiome is 80% of our immune system, lines our gut. So what's happening there is talking to all the other parts, and shouldn't ever be overlooked. Yeah.
So sometimes, I guess, as you coach people, the answers are like the elementary answers, I'm guessing. It's like, eat more vegetables, get more sleep, like, work on stress management and move your body more, like things like that, I'm assuming. Is that?
Sure. Sure. And there are some basics, you can kind of paint with a pretty broad brush. And unfortunately, the average American's lifestyle sucks so bad that you're going to help a lot of people with really generic information. I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I think 6% of the population is getting adequate micronutrients, and maybe it's like our diets are not great, our sleep habits are not great, sedentary lifestyle, so there's a lot of things that we can improve without having to get too nitty gritty. But obviously, when people are paying me for their health, we go into the weeds. Like, we're going to get really specific and help them figure out exactly what needs to be done. So, I do that in groups. I do that one-on-one.
So can you give us like a case study of the whole process end to end, and how?
And I'll talk about kind of the health piece, the physiologic piece, but then I also want to make sure that I talk about kind of the psychological piece and the way this rolls forward in other dimensions of a person's life. So this friend was really stuck. He'd been quite stuck in his life for quite a long time, and so stuck that just not really paying attention to himself and his health at all. And so we wanted to just do a deep dive. We wanted to look at all of the metrics. We did some blood work. We did some other testing. And as we did, I gave him some really targeted nutritional support. But then we ran through a 12-week reset program.
Okay.
And
resetting what?
So resetting the entire lifestyle. So it's really the eat well, move well, sleep well, breathe well. Okay, like that whole model. we were very specific on what foods to eat, how much of them to eat, when to eat them, what state of mind to be in when you're eating them, like really detailed.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about, how much movement, what type of movement, just started going through these in detail. In about 6 weeks, he had lost 28 pounds,
Which is awesome.
somewhere close to there. And
Because he
then,
was overweight.
oh,
And
yes, very overweight
Uh-huh.
and low energy, low mental, clarity, just not really thriving well in life. And so, 6 weeks, he's down close to 30 pounds. And then we do another 6 weeks where we kind of simplify, we lessen some of the restrictions, and we start to kind of try to create a little bit more of a sustainable approach.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 6 week kind of intensive and followed by a 6 week kind of more sustainable life. And lo and behold, even during that 6 weeks, there's more weight loss and more
The
health
second
improvement.
half, yes.
The second half, even
Right.
though it's quote unquote not as targeted for weight loss. And then we get done with 12 weeks and he goes and does another round. Anyway, we've just kind of continued to coach and work him through this in a cyclical manner, supporting his hormones, supporting his gut. I mean, the right type of diet should help every system of the body.
Yes.
You can't have a diet that's great for your blood sugar and then crappy for your gut microbiome. You know what I'm saying? So we're considering all of those things, making sure that the nutrient levels are dense and all of that. So I think he's down almost 70 pounds now. And what's interesting now is the confidence to actually make the tough choices that he was afraid to make.
Yeah, that he's been delaying for a long
That
time.
he's been delaying for years.
But he's also thinking more clearly. He's feeling better
Exactly.
about himself. He's
Yep.
changed some habits. Now that he's got some
Yep.
better habits. Yeah.
Yeah. This happens all the time. Thinking of another female who just gave me a little shout out testimonial the other day. Very similar situation. Very overweight, mental health issues, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, not sleeping well, hormones. She said, we're just, my hormones are a mess. That's kind of how she says it. And she's trying to be a coach. She's actually works with other people as a kind of an energy healer. How do you think her business is going?
Not so well.
Not good, right? Okay, so she's got a skill set, but she isn't living an energetically balanced, healthy life, right? So she can't thrive in her business. So we kind of go through. We do this, do the assessment. We get her started. She needs some hormones. We support that. She needs work on her gut. She needs things to lower her inflammation. Anyway, we built this protocol for her. She goes through the same program. She loses 25 pounds. But here's the kicker. Her business improves. And now her husband, who was actually kind of okay with this ED because she didn't ever want to have sex, and it was just easier for him not to deal with it.
Yeah.
So they weren't having sex at all because she didn't have a libido. And he was kind of okay with it because then he could hide and he didn't have to work on himself.
Right.
Okay. Well, now she's like, let's do it, baby. Like, come on. And he's like, oh, shoot. Now I actually have to get healthy myself, right? So so now he's encouraged and he's
affecting
like,
other parts of the system. Now it's
exactly
not just the individual. It's going into the marriage system.
So now the whole marriage system is changing. I have another female, same thing. The sexual relationship wasn't as bad, but he was a smoker and he was depressed and basically self-medicating with alcohol and tobacco and things. As soon as she got her health in place, he said, you know what? I want to eat what you're eating. And, he started making changes in and of himself. She didn't tell him, we know how helpful it is to try to fix your spouse, right?
Yeah. Right.
So she just modeled and she just did what she should do. And he goes, hey, I'm kind of interested in what you're doing. So now he's come along, he's quit smoking, he's lost weight, he's starting to exercise. So all of his behaviors are starting to change because she went first.
That is so good.
So that's kind of the magic that we're all looking for, right? Is that ripple effect. One person gets healthy, gives you another person permission or a model to follow, and then they start making those changes. And what you and I are both interested in is really thriving in life,
Yes.
not just surviving. And we want marriages to thrive. And we want bedrooms to be passionate and free and fun. And if you feel like crap, it's not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
It's just not. And so, I just love seeing that ripple effect and how it impacts the whole health of the family.
That's so good. That's inspiring. I love it.
Yes,
Thanks, Jerry.
absolutely.
Jerry, this is great. So let's say you're a listener, you're like, okay, I'm going to take charge of my health. They're looking at all 7 domains. They're eating
Hmm.
better, breathing better, sleeping better. Now their sex life is starting to improve. Libido is a little more natural and easy. Now they're ready to take their sex life to the next level. I want to hear from
Yeah.
you what you would say to that couple as a black belt sex tip.
Okay, so here's the move, guys. She lays down on her side, on her right side, and then with your right hand, you touch. No. All right. I used to think that there was some sort of move that you can make. I think there was a
You totally
Seinfeld.
got me. I'm like,
I know,
ooh,
I know,
what's
I did.
this? This is very specific.
Don't you remember that? I remember a Seinfeld episode where he talks about the move and somebody steals his move. But there is no move, right? And there's no position. One of our friends, I think a mentor to both of us, often says, it's not the position of your body, it's the position of your heart, right?
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
it's where you are. So the black belt sex tip is to start wherever you are and just keep on trying to improve.
I love it.
Okay.
That's good.
And the goal is absolute freedom. So if freedom and play is your goal, you're going to hit up against every single one of your barriers.
Yeah.
Okay. You will hit shame.
Mhm.
You will absolutely hit shame. Because as soon as you start saying, oh, pleasure's the goal, then you're going to run into, is it okay to feel pleasure?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And, here's my litmus test to whether I'm feeling shame or not. I touch my nose and
Uh-huh.
I feel my nose and then I
Uh-huh.
breathe in and I smell
Uh-huh.
and I go, was there any shame in that? And I say, no. Well, I touch
Mhm.
my elbow,
Uh-huh.
then I move my elbow. There's no shame in that.
Right.
Then I touch my genitals and I go, okay, was there any shame in that? In other words, every single part of your body is equally important.
Yeah.
And every single part of your body has a function,
Mhm.
and that function is good.
Yeah. It's to serve the whole system.
It's
Yeah.
to serve the whole system. So the point of my wife's clitoris and the point of my penis, and like these, part of their role is to feel pleasure. Therefore, that pleasure is good. Right. And so
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm just always checking in. Okay, do I feel any shame? No. Let's clear that shame, get rid of it. And you're going to hit the relationship issue. You're going to hit the attachment style problem. You're going to hit all of these things as you go. But like I said before, if you're looking at your health, it really doesn't matter where you start as long as you keep going through all of those pieces of the hub.
Uh-huh.
And with your sexual relationship, it doesn't matter where you start. You're going to eventually hit all of the different dynamics that are holding you back. And just be collaborative. And remember, it's all about freedom and pleasure.
That is so
So
good.
I don't know if that's a black belt tip,
It
but
totally
that's all I
is.
got, brother.
That is fantastic. Where can people go to learn more about you and what you do?
Oh, yeah,
And I
sure.
think you have some like download or something on your site too that's
So a
going to
couple things. Yeah, my URL is Duggar Wellness, Duggar Wellness.com. So that's the website for my brick and mortar clinic up here in Bountiful, where I do my chiropractic work, but I also, have a thriving telehealth coaching, online coaching program and things like that. So, but that's a good place to start. So 2 things that will happen on that website is, number 1, you'll find a link where you can purchase the book that my wife and I wrote together. My wife, by the way, is also a life coach and nutrition coach and is in this world. So we wrote a book during the pandemic because
Uh-huh.
lots of free time.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So you can get a copy of that. But then there's also an online snapshot assessment I call the Health Matrix Snapshot.
Mhm.
And that will ask you a few questions in all of those domains. Now, it's not the most thorough, right? It's not just where we stop, but it's a great place to start. And if you fill out that questionnaire, you'll get a report back. It tells you exactly where your weaknesses are, some spots to pay attention to. And it will, if you're interested, we can even sit down and do a free health strategy session. And I can give you some ideas on where you might want to go from there. And if it so happens that you want to work with me, we can have that discussion at that point. But I just want to close by saying the reason that I do what I do is because I don't want people to have the same experience I had with a father dying way too young.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that people are building health and preventing disease and really living their very best life. My mother lived to 92 years old. She got her brown belt in Taekwondo at age 70.
Wow.
She came into the office and got an adjustment every week. I told her exactly what supplements to be taking. And in the last 10 years of her life, we cared for her in our home with our children. And the joy that I feel in knowing that I can make that difference for my mom is the balance to the fact that I couldn't help my dad. And I don't like that idea of not being able to help somebody. So I am motivated to change the world one middle-aged dad and mom at a time.
Great. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. That was a lot of fun.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if there's anything you can do to help improve your sexual health, I hope you've been inspired to take action on that and do it today. Don't delay. And if you'd like some more help in going even deeper, me and my team would be happy to meet with you, whether privately or in a group setting. You'll find details on how to work with me and my team on my website at getyourmarriageon.com. Love to work with you. Meanwhile, I hope you and your spouse hug each other closely and share this podcast with all your married friends, and I promise they'll thank you for life. And go get your marriage on.